I'm Joe Miller, Democratic candidate for Iowa Secretary of State. I grew up in a dairy farm north of Independence, Iowa. Used to go to the fair like this, belonged to 4-H, showed my calf. Then I got off the farm and went in the Army for 3 years as a military policeman. Came out of that and worked as an IBEW union member down in Oklahoma City for a local at an AT&T plant. Came back to Iowa in '86. Been there ever since in the Cedar Rapids area. I live in Robbins now, and that's where I was on the city council, and I was also the mayor of Robbins for 2 years. I've been the Linn County Auditor and Commissioner of Elections for over 15 years. My wife is Sylvia, and she's with me today. We've been married 45 years. Some of my grandkids are here. We have 9 grandkids and 3 adult married children. So why am I running for Iowa Secretary of State? I'm running to make voting easy again. And also to make elections fair again, and to restore leadership to the Secretary of State's office, and to put voters first again. 14 words, 14-word platform, pretty simple. But before I can do any of those things, though, I need to fire Paul Pate. Why fire Paul Pate? You might recall, if you're for gun rights, in 2020, an amendment came through, a constitutional amendment came to his desk. He did nothing with it. He was supposed to publish it across the state. He did nothing with it. You'll notice now that it's on the ballot in 2022. Paul Pate was negligent. If you're for gun rights, you should be upset. You should want to fire him. If you're against gun rights, you should still be upset because he was negligent in his duties. He was derelict in duties. You don't get to pick and choose when you're an elected official as to what laws you're going to follow, what laws you're not going to follow. And he didn't follow the law. Then along came 2021. Election laws, the most restrictive in the nation, were passed in Iowa first before they were passed in Texas and Georgia and other places. Where was the incumbent Secretary of State? Nowhere to be found. In fact, he didn't even take a position on that 2021 election bill. He wasn't for it. He wasn't against it. He didn't have an opinion on it. What did that election bill do? They restricted heavily vote by mail. We used to have 40 days of early voting in 2016. Now we have 20. It used to be the deadline to submit an absentee ballot request to a county auditor was 3 days before the election. Now it's 15 days before the election. In my county, in Linn County, 101 people missed the deadline to submit an absentee ballot request form to our office. And 51 of them didn't vote. That can have huge ramifications this fall. And it wasn't just in Linn County that this happened. It happened all over the state of Iowa. Go read the news articles about it. If half the people don't go vote that were planning to vote by mail, that's a crisis for our democracy. And Paul Pate was nowhere to be found. When I say restore leadership, I mean he should have been leading on that issue. And yet he still has not said anything about it. 2022, what's Paul Pate doing? He's on a crusade against human trafficking. Great, I'm against human trafficking. I'm sure you're against human trafficking. But there's an office to combat human trafficking within the Department of Public Safety that's been there almost 10 years. Go look up the duties of the Secretary of State. You will not find any duties related to human trafficking. Yet, that's what he's doing. Yes, he's bringing visibility, but he's wasting tax dollars. Do you want to keep a person in office? Do you want to rehire a Secretary of State who's been negligent, who has no leadership when it comes to election laws, the most important part of his job, and who's out wasting taxpayer dollars? I say no. You need to fire Paul Payton. That's what elections are all about. Put it in the simplest terms. You're either hiring, or you're firing, or you're rehiring. I say no, do not rehire the current Secretary of State. So what have I done? This last election and the previous election, I printed absentee ballot request forms in our local newspaper, went to over 80,000 households, and people used those. They used them for the city school election, they used them for the primary. Why? Because not everyone has a printer. You see, when you're delivering government services, it's supposed to be about making things convenient. It's supposed to be about making your product and service more accessible. That's not what the 2021 laws did. What else have I done? As I said, we only have 20 days of early voting. The Linn County Auditor's Office was open all 20 days. Normal county offices were only open 14. In fact, we had 23 people before the June primary on Memorial Day vote. We were the only office in the state of Iowa to be open for voting on Memorial Day, and I'm glad. Yes, I wished it would have been 123, but I'll take 23. That's 23 people that maybe could not have voted any other way but to vote on that day. What else can we do? Well, on day one, I would stand opposed to any more restrictions on voting regulations. And if the legislature proposes them, I'll be there fighting for you because I'm going to put voters first. Not once, but every time. Because if you put voters first, you can't go wrong. And putting voters first is what we should be about in this democracy, because I believe that every person should be registered to vote, and I believe that every person should vote. But they do have the option not to vote, and I'm okay with that too. But I don't believe there's your voters and my voters and his voters. They're all our voters. And when everyone votes, our democracy is more powerful, it's more secure, it's more consistent, and that's what we need. What else can we do? I would propose that we all lobby for automatic voter registration at age 17. Within a decade, we probably have everyone in this state registered to vote, because the key to participation in voting is registration. So let's get everyone registered. When we go to the DOT, let's make it automatically, you're automatically opted in to vote or to register to vote, not that you have to think about it. Let's just do it for you. That's good customer service. Anticipate what the customer needs and just do it. What else can we do? How about this, create permanent absentee ballot request forms? Not just have to fill them out every election like we do now. And that would help us administer elections better, because county auditors like myself would be able to predict how many people are going to turn out for an election, because we'd be sending out those ballots to them. See, there's ways we can improve our democracy. Those are just a couple. How about we allocate absentee ballot drop boxes by population and not by county? Right now, it's one per county. Adams County, 2,800 voters. Linn County, 161,000 voters. We both get one absentee ballot drop box. What's fair about that? Let's make elections fair again. There's an assorted number of other things we can do, but those are just the starters. We've got some cards we can hand out if you're interested to you. The list, all those things. What I would do on day one, what I would propose to do, what I would lobby for. But the one thing I would do, beyond all over, and that would be my guide, is put voters first, because if you use that as your guide, you're likely never to make a mistake on what is right and what is wrong for the voter. I'm Joel Miller, Democratic candidate for Iowa Secretary of State. Let's make voting easy again. Let's make elections fair again. Let's restore leadership, and let's put voters first again. Thank you.